on the unfolding situation in Sudan. Raga Makawi, editor of African Affairs platform and a Sudanese analyst, joins me live via Skype from London. Ms. Makawi, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you.
Now, since the ouster of Omar al-Bashir, it has been 2.5 years of a slow progress towards democracy. But what went wrong and when, really?
So from the beginning, the transitional process was established on an uneasy alliance, one whose fissures, if you look closely, you could see them either in the continuous fracturing of groups and emergence and diversions of alliances within the FFC, and then also with and in between the military and the militia. Add on top of that now the signatories of the JPA. So there are many groups working together, different elites with different agendas, coming together and diverging. Those of us who are following the daily developments we'd be able to see the faltering progress. So you would never call it a perfect process by any stretch. And we saw these problems in the daily clashes that affected the day-to-day running of government, as well as in the long-term policy frameworks from economic management to foreign policy that were adopted and support to them. So it was never really bliss, and storm was always brewing just beneath the surface.
Now, you mentioned those tensions that have existed since the beginning of, this transitional government. Was there any effort to kind of smoothen them out, resolve some of these issues if both parties had the same intention of having a democratic system take root in Sudan?
I would say that there were attempts. A lot of the government's work was also a lot of its time was spent on creating side committees to try and resolve internal conflict. So there was an attempt, but it seems that the parties to it were not as keen, or that they were keen to a degree until alternative interests or opportunities emerged. And then these alliances again would break down.
Yes. Now, Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan appeared on television, and what he said is that the military was still committed to a democratic elections by mid-2023. What do you make of that?
So it's not uncommon for military dictatorships to use the guise of representational democracy through elections to achieve international recognition and some local and national legitimacy. Bashir did that, and also so did Nimeri back in the 70s. However, elections, if one is to consider the trajectory of the constitutional document upon which the entire transitional period is predicated, it stipulates many provisions whose proper and accountable implementation is necessary to deliver the country to fair and free elections. So you don't jump from this point to elections.
Yeah. Now, there were some conflicting reports that some civilians have been calling for the military, in fact, to take full control. Is that what you were hearing, and why would that be the case?
Well, to a huge degree, the military has been in charge of these processes, and they do, to a degree, influence public opinion and reshape it. Sudan's near and far history has a tendency of political and military elites who, pay people to present as supporting one camp or the other. Having said that, it's also important to realize that not everyone in Sudan was in support of the civilian government. Different people, different constituencies were their political position vis-a-vis the transitional process varied across the spectrum. So it's a kind of a delicate balance in considering who is with or against, and again, whether or not the people who are calling for a military coup were actually genuinely speaking of their own accords.
We'll definitely be watching the developments in Khartoum. Thank you very much, Ms. Makawi.